Today we'll be making a sculpture. A sculpture is different from what we've done before because it is not flat. It is something that you can view and enjoy by even walking around it. We're going to be using the word and vocabulary of texture. Raise your hand if you know what texture means. Okay, turn and talk to a partner. What do you think this sculpture might feel like? What is its texture? Texture is not always things that you can feel. For instance, this image is very flat because it's just a digital image and someone drew it. But the way we look at it and the way it makes us feel, it's almost kind of like hills. So it still has texture, even though it's something that we can't necessarily reach out and feel. Raise your hand. What are some other textures that you can think of? Today we'll be using something called clay. We're gonna be using air hardening clay, so it's not something that I have to put into an oven and cook. It's something that will dry overnight. So this is a project that we will only be doing for today because it will be dry by next time that I see you. Clay is a special kind of soil from the earth, which is created when rocks start to hit each other under the earth, and they start turning powdery, and then they get mixed with water and they saturate. So it's kind of like a very thick mud. When clay is cleaned and refined, it makes an exceptional material for pottery. Pottery is like bowls and dishes and things that we use. So now, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be painting our sculptures, our very flat relief sculptures. And we're gonna be choosing 3 colors today, so be thinking about what colors you might wanna choose. You will need a placemat, you will need a paintbrush, and you will need a paper towel. So when you start painting, you can choose a color obviously, and you just dip. And I want you to try to follow the textures that you made. So for instance, if you use this one, maybe you can think about doing patterns of color on your art. So I might put yellow on all of these squares, and maybe I'll put a color in between. So I'm gonna go ahead and color my squares. So I went ahead and painted with my first color. Now I want to try one of my other colors. Now notice I'm not using a whole lot of paint. You won't need a whole lot of paint for this project, so I'm just gonna give you a little bit. I'm going to dip, let it swirl, let it drip, and then I need to dab. No, not this kind of dab. I'm talking about this kind of dab. You need to make sure that all that gunk is off the brush. And see, even though I dabbed it, there's still a little bit there. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try it again until my paint brush is clean. Now that my paintbrush is ready, I'm gonna go ahead and go and find the next color. Okay, so I think I'm done with my color. I'm also gonna have a couple different metallic colors that you can choose from to put on top of another color. Just raise your hand and I'll give you permission to use those. I wanna make sure that you have a color down first. The metallic colors will look very shiny, and since that is a texture, we can use it on this project. You do not have to paint the bottom. You can paint the sides. It's not a good idea to paint the bottom because it'll stick to the paper. When you're completely done, make sure you leave yours on the back counter so I can make sure and keep it safe. And then you're in charge of making sure that your paintbrush goes in the water cup goes into the sink, and then you must please put up your placemat and then clean your paint tray. So when you clean your paint tray, you just need to softly turn on the water. You don't even need this much. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. You'll need one of these big paintbrushes. You'll get the paintbrush wet, and then hold up your paint tray because you are going to use the water to paint the extra paint away. It really does work. You're almost like painting with the water. So every single one, just go ahead and paint it until the water runs clear and it's no longer colorful. It may take some elbow grease, but you gotta get it off. This is something that must be done before class is over today. Please make sure that these are all nice and clean. And then if you could please find a paper towel, turn off the water, and dry it. It needs to be dried. Once it is completely dry, just leave it on the counter for me.